today we're starting with a question, a fill in the blank, if you will. So fill in the blank. Leadership is hard because, and you're probably right with whatever you said, but we're going to walk through some reasons why leadership can be really, really difficult. In fact, Maxwell actually has said there are no two good consecutive days in the life of a leader. Okay, thanks for that encouragement.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I mean, it's true though, in some sense.
I think it's a proverb. It's not like a law. It happens every time.
Yeah.
You can have good days in a row, but I think the aspect is, there's going to be more hard days coming.
Yeah, I look at it as
They're
like
on the horizon.
Yeah, I look at it as like a reality check for leaders.
Very much
like,
so.
Obviously, you're going to have good seasons, but you're going to have seasons that are, not so good or really challenging. Extra weight on your shoulders, extra pressure,
Right?
Those kinds of things. But yeah, so again, there are no two consecutive days in the life of a leader. Maxwell, take it for what that is. Definitely more of a proverb than a, cut and dry. Every other day is good. So
yeah.
But I mean, so it leads to these two questions, though. This whole idea of the hardship of that is leadership at times. Why can leadership be so challenging and difficult? Right? We asked you guys to fill in the blank. We're going to kind of fill it in and give you guys some things.
Yeah,
but
for ourselves.
For ourselves.
Why it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and challenging and difficult. And then, is leadership worth the effort it demands and the frustration that it brings?
Ooh.
So why is it challenging? Why is it so difficult at times? And is it worth the effort and the frustration?
And I think to that second question, is it worth? There's a short-term and long-term answer.
Yeah,
which
very much so.
We'll talk about here in a second. Yeah,
exactly. So challenging and difficult leadership is, and is it worth the frustration and the challenges, right? The demands. So what Bill's going to do next is give us some of these reasons. We're going to fill in the blank. We're going to give you 5 reasons. Yeah. He's going to read them through, and then we'll maybe go back and take them one at a time.
We'll talk around them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
awesome.
So, like Jared said, I'll give you all 5 up front. Number 1, leadership is hard because it involves people, and we are fallible. We're not arrived. We make mistakes.
We're on that list as leaders.
And Jared and I are number 1 and 2 on that. I won't say who's 1 and who's 2, but we're 1 and 2 on that list of why leadership is hard because of us. We're just human. It's, I go back to the thought that I didn't have to teach any of my children how to lie or cover up their shame. There's just kind of this innate ability to be selfish in humanity, in all of humanity, and no one's innocent of this. So, and that's why leadership is all about people, right? It's about just helping people to be better than they are. Anyways, let me move through the list. We'll come back. I'm kind of devolving here. Number 2, more people want something from you than they want something for you. Ooh. Right? If you're a leader, you're the go-to person where people come with their problems, for the organization.
Fix it now. Fix it.
Number 3, there is no coasting. You can't, as a leader, you can't sit back and relax. Yeah. There's always the next challenge. There's always to do better. There's always moving the organization in a different direction to the next level, to the next project, next accomplishment. Yeah. It's always ongoing. Like trout swim upstream. If they stop swimming, what happens? They're going to float, go back downstream. So with leadership, there is no coasting. Number 4, the reward for being successful as a leader. It's more responsibility. And this started back with my dad when I was a kid. He said, Dad, I want to do this. And I said, well, you can do that once you prove to me you're responsible here with this. And then we'll talk about if you can go do that. Yeah. Right? And it's the same thing with the rest of our lives. Once we're successful at something with a responsibility, then and only then are we given more responsibility. Yeah. And then number 5, it requires intentional ongoing growth. Yeah, growth doesn't happen of itself. It has to be pursued. Getting older, not optional. We're all going to get older, but growing, that doesn't happen with everybody.
That's intentional.
Yeah. So it involves people, number 1. Number 2, more people want something from you than they want for you. Number 3, there's no coasting. Number 4, the reward for being successful as a leader is more responsibility. And number 5, it requires intentional, ongoing growth.
So let's start with number 1 then. leadership is hard because it involves people. And I'll start by saying what I was saying previously when I was commenting when you first gave us this point. We're the first people, right? We talk about leading self. We have a whole episode on that. You can find that on our platforms. But for me, like even this morning, just woke up not in a great attitude, made some stupid decisions, like, and then you sit and you reflect, and you're like, okay, I'm the first person that I have to lead, right? And so I got to get myself in the right attitude, in the right headspace, make sure I'm checking myself before I go to lead other people. So for that reason, I always kind of throw myself under the bus first to say, hey, leadership is hard because it involves people. I am a people. I'm a person. I'm the leader. I got to check myself first and foremost. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're in a shipwreck and now we're all in the lifeboat together and no one of us is outside that lifeboat. We're all kind of just trying to survive together, given the circumstances. And unfortunately, some of those circumstances is this natural ability for us to be kind of from day one, we're, born with the ability to be selfish. And it's never had to, I don't know, has any of you had children where you had to teach them to be selfish or teach them to lie or teach them to cut, hey, where's your broccoli? I ate it. Oh, what's wrapped up in your napkin there? Nothing.
Exactly.
It's just innate.
Yeah, no, it really is. And that, I think that involves, we're going to talk about the intentional growth part of it, but you can kind of borrow from that 0.5 for this 0.1. I mean, it requires intentional growth, but we are the people that it involves. So we have to be continually growing, hence our growth plans and different things like that.
And then our goal is to help others with their growth to accomplish the organization's objectives, right? Whether that's, we want this project or ministry to happen in our church, or we have our nonprofit or our snowmobile club. We want to accomplish a long ride together. There's all these hurdles and tasks and getting everybody to cooperate with that, or in business, right? It comes down to the shareholders, right? And market value and the success of the business and the product that we're selling. Are we doing it well? And getting everyone together within that larger unit to cooperate and having divisions and heads and those coordinate. And there's just a lot of, let's face it, ego, pride, agendas.
There's different personalities
too.
Just the personalities alone. You've got, a big personality. You've got a reserved personality. You've got the annoying personality. However you want to term those personalities, you have them. And as a leader, we have to be able to work with each of them as individuals and help them bring what they offer to the team itself. And so that, I'm obviously speaking of team leadership here, but which is what I do, my experience. And so that can be, a challenge. Trying to, it's not just that people can be people and that people are selfish and people can be a pain in the royal behind, but at times you're just simply dealing with different personalities. Somebody comes in, didn't have a great morning. The big personality hurts the other personality. And you're sitting there like, guys, I just want to focus on the end of the goal. Like what's the goal today in the meeting, right? And then you end up getting frustrated. So it just involves people.
Yeah, and it's, you can't teach what you don't know and you can't lead where you won't go. So it's first and foremost about us rising above it, growing ourselves so we can help others rise and grow as well. And Jared's point is excellent. It's not all about the negative aspects of the human nature. There's times I've been in a meeting where I said apple, they heard orange. Because the different backgrounds, assumptions, personalities, and none of that is inherently wrong or bad or any of that. It's just a matter, okay, let's work through this. How do we resolve that conflict? Well, we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. We got one scheduled about conflict, but it's hard work to work with people.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. So number 2, moving on, more people want something from you than they want something for you. And so I'm asking you, Bill, as a leader, when you hear that statement, is there a story? Is there another phrase? What comes to your mind when you think of, as a leader, at times more people want something from me than for me?
It's not, first thing that comes to my mind is not necessarily the burden of being asked to take care of this issue, this problem, this hurdle in an organization. That's part and nature of the beast to a certain extent. Yeah. But the flip side is people are looking to me, right? Eyes are on me, and there's a certain level of pressure
The weight of the responsibility.
The weight of the responsibility is a piece of that first comes to my mind. I can remember when I was first young, early on, I used to be a youth pastor, one of my first experiences at an event, and I was up front. And I realized, oh, snap. People, they're expecting a certain level of professionalism, performance, good life, expectations on me. That was kind of eye-opening, being a very young man, 20-something at the time. And as I have moved from position to position through my career, I kind of expect it now. And I prepare my mindset of, okay, what's the expectations, right? And can I first live up to them? Not that I have to make everybody happy, right? That's
You're not a
not
people
that. This is
pleaser.
in regards to expectations about the role that I have to perform, not whether I'm going to have everybody like me or not. And you won't. You won't have everybody like you. So moving into those roles, I ask that question of myself: can I meet these expectations? Even now, I just applied for a position a level up that I think I'm more than ready for because I've practiced it multiple times in the past, but now it's come about where I have an opportunity to fill that role on a more steady, permanent basis. And I'm asking myself the questions: am I ready? Right? And evaluating that. Does people coming to you wear me down, asking their problems? Yeah, at days. It depends what's going on in my life. I'll be frank. We've been through in my life. I've been laid off 3 times, not because of my performance, but because of the economy. Each time, one of those times, both my wife and I got laid off at the same time. And we're like, okay, dear God, what now?
Yeah.
Right. Literally.
Yeah. No.
For us as people of faith, it's okay, dear God, what now?
Yeah.
So then, getting that position, still having one of us laid off, dealing with the anxiety, the frustration, and then having people come to you with the problems on top of that. A lot of this, I hate to use a fitness analogy again, but it's so true. It's weightlifting. The more you do it, the stronger you become, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same as leadership. The more you do this, the stronger, the more capable. And it goes on to our number 4, and we'll get to that in a bit, about being successful, meaning more responsibility. But that also means you've grown. I've grown. You've grown.
Sure.
Right?
For sure.
Can you think of times when you've taken on a new responsibility going, I'm not sure if I'm ready, and discovered that you were?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, when I look at this question, leadership is hard. And then you look at this idea of more people wanting something from you than they do for you. There's a lot of truth to that. I've been actually blessed, and call it luck, call it blessing from God, whatever you want to call it, to have a lot of people in my circle for many years, which we've talked about. That's the importance of surrounding yourself with other leaders that are good and healthy, and putting people on your team that are rooting for you, right? And so that's what I think of when I think of this question, because for me, I'm in pastoral ministries, so yeah, that's a real thing. People coming to you with, deep-seated heart issues, mind issues, the church, we call it sin issues, whatever you want to call it, or they just come to you with burdens, with frustrations. They'll come to you with ideas, right? So people come to us as ministers, reverends, pastors, whatever you want to call us, all the time. And, there is kind of that demand, are you going to be at this meeting? Are you going to, help to give spiritual guidance to this one and
Why
that
aren't
one?
You doing this?
Why aren't you doing this ministry or this program? And so that, I see a lot of truth in this statement. But again, my mind goes right to, who am I surrounded with, and who's going to have my back if the reality of them, wearing me down starts to get to me, right? Because again, at the end of the day, these are the people that I'm leading.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to differentiate within my mind, within my heart, my attitude, and my actions, not to take out my frustration on the very people that I'm supposed to be leading.
And that's a great point. The exact opposite of this statement is what good leaders do. They want more for people than they do from them. So we're the antithesis of what happens to us.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, so moving on, number 3, reasons why leadership is hard. There is no coasting. It's like fish swimming upstream.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me ask you again. We'll ask each other. No coasting. What does that really mean at the heart of it? I think I know how I would answer that, but I'll let you go first.
Well, in the corporate world, there's always the business objective. It's as Simon Sinek says, it's an infinite game because the goals, the financial goals, the new products, phasing out old products, all of this is a constantly moving landscape. So it never changes. So reaching those accomplishments, financial goals, create subgroups, sub-projects, sub-teams, sub-objectives that are constantly in flux and changing. And in fact, when I was in school, I had a professor tell me this way. It was for church. I was going to school for a youth pastor. He said, oh, shoot, what was he saying? Just jumped right out of my head.
Hey, it happens to the best of us.
Let me think about this.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. A program or a ministry in church world is just like surfing.
Oh, that's right. You've
Right?
told me this. Yeah, you've told me this before.
So,
I should have known what you were saying.
yeah, you find the right program that's going to fit your needs, but eventually that wave is going to come to an end. And then what do? You get off that wave, get off your surfboard,
Hopefully right
turn
before it
around,
crashes,
swim
right?
back out, and find the next wave you need to ride that's going to give you the best ride possible, the best for the in this, for a surfer, it's the best thrill, but in this turn, it's the best wave that's going to help you accomplish your goals and your objectives.
So you're either riding, which is different than coasting,
Yep.
on the wave,
You're on the wave,
or
riding.
you're swimming back out to catch another one.
to
So
find
there
the next
really
one.
there's no coasting involved.
None. Yeah, none.
I got you.
So in response to business objectives, that's one way to answer that there is no coasting. But secondly, individually, as a leader, as a person of, I hope growing character, I can't just sit and not develop my character, right? Because just like those trout, if I just sit back and relax, they're still the inward, selfish, stupid. As one person says, I'm just one decision away from being stupid. All of us are just one decision away from doing something really, really stupid.
So you can't coast. You got to pay
You
attention.
can't coast. You got to pay attention. You got to put safety nets in place. You got to put habits in place to prevent you from making those dumb decisions. And that's effort, that's energy, that's ongoing. And as soon as you relax on that, you can try and coast. And you may get by for a while, but eventually you're going to justify to yourself the decision that's going to knock you right out of success.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the same analogy because when I think of this whole wave idea, right? I think of when I've surfed before once. Okay, I do boogie boarding, right? Because that's a lot easier.
I did water skiing, but I've never
surfed. Surfing. I tried it with my uncle down in Florida a couple times. It is really it's hard, in my personal opinion. For you guys and ladies out there that surf, just be quiet for a minute. Let me get through this. Let me get through this point. You guys make it look so easy. And you'll probably agree with this, and please comment if you don't. But what I found is that it's really difficult to get yourself out to past the breaking point on waves that are surfable or good, for good surfing. And I know there's techniques, and I know you got to learn them. And you put your knee on the board maybe, or the good surfers can dive down and come up with their board. But even when you know how to do all of that, it's still, I found a lot of the work is just getting out there. So in your analogy of finding that next program, or maybe that can be an analogy of you're building up something and then you get to ride on top of it. But when you're surfing, you're constantly adjusting your weight, you're constantly adjusting your board, right? Your foot, your toes, your heel, your ankles, and all that stuff. You're kind of constantly making sure you're not going to biff it right in the middle of a good wave. And again, those of you who are good at this, you look like you're just up there riding, but we know, right?
Wow.
We can see the calf muscles working. We can see
Good analogy.
Yeah.
This is a good analogy.
We can see the muscles in your quads working and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
I like that.
And so that for me is kind of, there is really no coasting. Even when you're riding success, right? You're still doing
Micro
something,
adjustments, yeah.
making those micro adjustments to make sure it doesn't come to a crashing halt too soon. So that's how I would, flesh out that whole surfing analogy when this leadership is hard because there's no coasting.
Yeah. And to quote our favorite leader, Maxwell, says everything worthwhile is uphill.
Oh, heck yeah.
And
yeah.
people have uphill aspirations, but downhill habits. Right? I don't know. I'm guilty of that. So it's the matter of having uphill aspirations and changing to have uphill habits.
So good. So we're talking about why leadership is hard.
Yeah.
It involves people. More people want something from you than they want something for you. There's no coasting. Yeah. Number 4, the reward for being successful as a leader is
more responsibility.
There you go.
And we talked about this just a little while ago. And that's just kind of the nature of life, right? We can't get to a point where we're I'm just going to go to work. I'm just going to do my thing, go to my work, and just do enough to get by. I'm going to park my car in backwards. So as soon as the bell rings or the timer goes off or the clock hits 5 p.m. or whatever your cutoff time is, I'm in my car. I'm out there, on my way out. Right. It's this whole mentality of living to work or work to live, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's really a fair, equal either or. Right. I think there's got to be there's sometimes I'm at home and I have an idea for work. I'm off the clock and I have this idea and I note it down or I flesh it out or write a couple paragraphs about it.
Yeah.
And I'm technically working, but I'm off the clock, but that's to the benefit of the business. Right. And it goes also back to, are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it because you see a leader and you go, oh, that's impressive. I want to be impressive like that. Oh, they get a good parking spot. I want the good parking spot. Oh, they got the bonus. I want to get the bonus.
Love it.
Oh, they got the big salary. I want the big salary. Yeah. Those aren't the right reasons for leadership.
Adding value to people.
Adding value to people, helping them to rise up where they don't see that they can possibly be to begin with. Yeah. Seeing their capacity where it really is and helping them rise to it. That's what leadership is about. That's what Jared and I are about. So in that end, taking on being successful as a leader, of course, is going to mean more responsibility. It's the way of life. Like I said, how my dad treated me growing up.
I was going to say, that's exactly where I was going. I mean, I remember working at the camp all those years ago, and my brother and I were on the maintenance crew. It was our boss, the late Bill, just amazing man. But he had my brother John and I doing all the yard work. And I remember when I came on, John was already on the riding lawnmower. That left me with the push mower, not self-propelled push mower, just a push mower, and this industrial size weed whacker or trimmer, whatever you want to call it. And I remember the day that, John had, graduated. I had learned all about trimming and how to, mow the lawns correctly with the push mower and the smaller areas and get around the different items and things that were in some of the lawns up there. And we always had the place looking really nice, really well trained. But John graduated, moved on to other things, and then I took his leadership spot with the ride-on mower, thinking, I don't have to carry, I don't have to do anything. But what I didn't realize at the time is we hired somebody else, and then I had the responsibility of training them how to trim lawns, how to utilize the push mower the way it's supposed to be utilized. And I just remember thinking, I did graduate to the riding mower, and this is wonderful. I can ride, but I'm also responsible now for another whole piece of this lawn care system. Yeah. And so that's just the way the life works. You're successful, you do a good job, you're going to get more responsibility.
And that brings a great reminder to my mind. I'm going to recommend a book. When someone comes to me and says, Bill, I'm interested in leadership, this is the first book I recommend for you to go and read on leadership. Write this down, pull over, rewind, play this name again. If I remember, I'll add it into the comments when we post this episode. But the 5 levels of leadership by John Maxwell.
Yeah.
It really gives you a whole clear, big picture understanding of the progression of successful leadership. And in the end, it's a leader's job to, number 1, work themselves out of a job, and number 2, train their replacement.
And that leads right into number 5. It requires intentional, ongoing growth. That's why leadership is so hard.
Yeah.
Intentional, ongoing growth. I mean, I just heard I think it was Instagram or something. So forgive me for not knowing names, but just one of those things you scroll by. But the lady was just simply mentioning, as a parent, we're just continually working ourselves out of a job.
Yeah.
You change diapers until they're potty trained, right? You brush their teeth till they can brush their own, right? You do their laundry till they can do their own, right? Just all of that stuff until you're then not responsible, for those kinds of things. You're working yourself out of a job, but it's for the benefit of training and bringing up a child and an adolescent who can be self-sustained. But we have to intentionally grow to be able to do that.
If leadership is about influence, if leadership is about adding value to other people, if leadership is about helping them rise to their full potential as leaders, working ourselves out of a job, training a replacement, doing that cycle of leadership, right? Ongoing growth, teaching them to teach the next person and work themselves out of the job, then it's all about others and it's not about us.
Yeah.
And if it's not about us, that means I have to grow more to be able to help people rise higher than they, it's that law of the lid that we've talked about. Yeah. If I'm a level 7 leader, I can't train any higher than level 6.
Right.
And if I want to have better quality leaders around me in my life, I have to be equipping younger leaders to grow more, and I have to keep growing to be able to stay ahead of that curve.
And I think the danger in this, Bill, I don't know, we don't know exactly, we know where some of our listeners are, and so I know this will apply to some of you, but we don't know who all of our listeners are. We're not talking to you around the table like we are together right now, yeah. But I often wonder, some of you I know are in those positions where it's just, hey, it's just me and like my assistant. And if my assistant doesn't live up to standards, we'll just get another assistant. And that's the mentality that a lot of people have. And whether it's an assistant or an admin or whatever you want to call the person, that's just a bad way to look at it, I think, in general. And I know some companies and organizations are set up kind of that way, where it's like, hey, this person went and got a degree for this, and then this person is their administration person. So it's going to be a little tricky sometimes to apply these truths depending on where you're at, if Absolutely. That's true of you. Yep. But I would still encourage you, even the person who comes in, and they are, whatever you want to call them, they're paper pushers, they're schedulers, they're just administration level. It doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter if they signed on for 6 months, they signed on for 3 years. You have an opportunity for whatever that is, whatever that timeline is, to influence someone and actually add value and add tools to their toolbox. And that's our personal opinion and definition of what leadership is: influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I think that sometimes we got to change that perspective. Even the person who's, sending your emails and scheduling can learn something more about the system and about what you do.
People want to feel like they matter, that they contribute. I mean, if they don't feel like they're contributing and they matter, why put more effort into their role and their responsibilities? Yeah. So go back and watch our episodes on the law of delegation and empowerment, right? Yeah. These are all crucial aspects to helping others grow. But again, it's first and foremost about us individually growing as leaders to help others.
So let me list these 5 again. Then Bill's going to give us a principle here. Yeah. Reasons why leadership are hard. We came up with 5 that we just beat our heads onto the wall trying to think so hard. It was so difficult to come up with reasons. Total joking. We thoughtfully
ran out of room.
Yeah, we ran out of room, but we wanted to think. We did think thoroughly through these. But so number 1, it involves people. Leadership is hard because it involves people. Leadership is hard because more people want something from you than they want something for you. Leadership is hard because there's no coasting. Leadership is hard because the reward for being a successful leader is more responsibility. And leadership is hard because it requires intentional, ongoing growth. Bill, you had a principle in here to kind of help us think through this a little bit.
So, is leadership hard? The answer is yes. It is hard, and for the reasons we listed. And that number one reason is kind of like the umbrella reason. And the other remaining reasons 2 through 5 are kind of subsets.
Sure. You can look at it that way, yeah.
Right. But how do you keep moving through this even though it's hard? How do you motivate when there's conflict and it's hard to resolve, and you say apple and they hear orange, and you want to push through that to make sure there's clear communication? And how do you move your organization forward or your goal? How do you increase the success of your business and your organization? If you're a nonprofit looking to help others, how do you get more food in the food bank into more people's hands? And how do you move things going forward? And simply, I'm going to ask a question: what's on the other side of yes? If you are successful, if you endure, if you push forward, if you are able to help people grow, what's on the other side of that yes? What does that picture look like for you? What's success look like if you are able to endure and move forward and help others grow and get the organization where it needs to be?
That's a great question.
Knowing that, that's going to change, and you're going to have to ask that question again, because it just, there's no coasting, right, as we said.
Yeah.
So there's a great quote I heard from a podcast from a gentleman, Rory Vaden. He had a TED Talk that went viral. Yeah. He has a book called 7 Steps to Achieving True Success. Take the Stairs, 7 Steps to Achieving True Success. He says, success is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. It's just an ongoing. So what is on the other side of yes is what helps me to keep moving forward.
To pay the rent every day.
To pay the rent every day, because when I'm mentoring, one of my responsibilities in my current role is to mentor young leaders. And when I get a new leader, hey, this is my new first time, first assignment, first leadership role, I get excited because I do see their potential. I do see what they can become. Yeah. And I put a magnifying glass over where they're successful to help boost and grow their confidence as a result. Yeah. Yeah. And there's this other quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's got a number of bombshell quotes I just love.
He really does.
There is no victory at bargain basement prices. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically. And it comes true with leadership too. If we want to have good quality team that works and functions well together as a team, if we want to be successful or as an organization, profitable, nonprofit, helping others, whatever it is, it's not going to be easy. You'll get what you pay for. If you go for the easy path, then you're going to have mediocre or even worse, poor results. But if you go for the kind of high road, high path, the climb for the hill and make the effort, that's when it's worthwhile. That's when you have real reason to succeed, when you do get to the other side of yes. So,
yeah, and when we opened the episode, we gave you these two ideas of leadership being hard, these 2 questions. Why is leadership so challenging and difficult? And then, is it even worth it? Right. And, the demands and the frustration that it brings, and having to pay the rent every day and say yes every morning and getting up and doing it all again. And what are the reasons it's worth it? If you told me when I first started leadership, why is it worth it? And so we'll give you 5. Everything rises and falls on leadership, number 1.
Yeah, it says Maxwellism.
Maxwell.
Yeah, he says it again and again and again, and it's so true.
You got to think about this, especially through the lens of adding value to people, influence, and how much it really does matter. And sometimes, you're uniquely in a position that nobody else is in, and you have an opportunity. And sometimes I think through, what if I don't? Yeah. Will somebody else come along and do this? I just went to do this without tears. I went to a funeral yesterday of a friend. Yeah. He passed at a young age, and he's younger than I am. And just a life worth, 1,000 in my opinion. But he is quoted when he was given his terminal diagnosis a number of years ago by, I think it was his father at the funeral, said, he just asked, who's going to take care of my wife? Who's going to take care of my nieces and nephews? Who's going to take care of my friends? Who's going to take care of my parents? And his first thought was not of himself, but with everybody else around him. Yeah. People matter. And if you're not there, who, is going to do it? And I think for too long, we bought into this whole, you're replaceable line. And that's just, I think it's terrible. I think maybe in the grand scheme of things, somebody could, we could fill your position with somebody else. But what a derogatory way to look at everything rising and falling on leadership.
Yeah. No one can make and connect relationships the way you can.
Right.
While someone may come in and do the role, no one is uniquely suited to be you than you.
Right.
So, to use a coaching analogy, everything rises and falls on leadership. How much responsibility of a successful baseball team or basketball team falls on the coach?
I mean, and on some of your head players. We just had, we're coming up on our last middle school softball game of the season. And a few games ago, our star third baseman, got slid into and her ankle taken out. And she's been since not able to play, but she's been at every game.
That's awesome.
And she comes and she helps coach and she, stands at the bucket, tosses the balls, and does everything that she can possibly do. She was running the Game Changer program that on the the app to keep the stats for the girls in the game. And why? Because everything rises and falls on good leadership. If she had thrown in the towel and said, I guess you guys are going to struggle without me here, instead of, hey, there's an opportunity for another girl to come in and play third base, to learn to do what I do, and now I get to sit on by the coach's side and learn to do what they do. And she took that head on. So cool to see. So everything rises and falls on leadership. Another reason why leadership is worth it is because it causes you and I to grow.
Yeah.
Right? So our capacity increases, so does our impact.
Yeah.
I mean, what better reason that leadership is worth it than you get to grow too?
I am who I am today. I am at my level of capacity that I'm at today because I've been a leader and I've been growing as a leader. Hands down. I mean, first and foremost, my faith motivates me.
Oh, sure.
But secondly, my role of serving others as a leader has caused me to step up, step out, step over, and move forward in ways I would have never done otherwise. Graduating college all those years ago, I just wanted to be a hobbit. I want to stay in the Shire, tend my garden, be left alone, right?
Smoke my pipe.
Smoke a pipe, right.
Bilbo Baggins.
But the reality is, I stepped up, I engaged, I volunteered, I led, and one opportunity led to another. And here I am today. I got 25 years in the current industry I'm in as a leader. I've got 35 years of leadership overall.
Yeah.
And, I would be a far worse off individual character-wise if I
had you stayed in the Shire.
If I haven't had serving others to help me grow more so they can, in turn, grow in their potential as well. If that wasn't before me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't.
So good. Third reason why leadership is worth it. We won't camp on this one. We've beat it to death, but people matter. It's plain and simple. People matter. That's number 3. Number 4, when you help people get what they need, they'll help you get what you need. I think this is a great trade-off of why leadership is worth it. I mean, when you look at helping others to succeed, you yourself will succeed. It's kind of the whole idea of they grow, you grow. But I think part of this is implemented in different situations. But I think the principle stands on itself. When you help other people get what they need, you in turn get. I think of this as coaching.
Yeah.
When we're able as coaches to give the players what they need to succeed, we succeed as coaches when they succeed.
And people will echo service with service.
Yes, they will.
Right. If you serve them to help them get what they need, And that may be just a voice of encouragement. It may be a leg up in the organization. It may be increasing and growing in a skill. It may be a number of things. But when you help them get what they need, and then you go, hey, look, we got this deadline. I need help. I need you. Can you help us? And they're like, yeah, sure, of course, happy to. So, when we help them get what they need, they help us get what we need.
Yeah.
And what we need is usually for them, right, in the end.
Yeah. And number 5, last reason why we think leadership is worth it is because we get to be the audience, meaning we get to see people grow where they never thought they could. And that's pretty cool. Just to get to where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
You get to be a part of that.
That puts a fire in my belly. When I have a young leader I've been mentoring and see them grow in confidence and skill and ability,
Succeed
and
at
scope,
something, yeah.
and their scope of leadership grows as well as their skill of leadership, man, that is so awesome.
Yeah. It makes it worth it.
Yeah. And,
It really does.
and can we all agree there's a lack of good quality leadership in our world today? Without going into detail, I just look in the news and I look in hearing conversations, and I got some great leaders at my work. I'm very proud to be their direct reports. I'm very proud to be their peers. I'm very proud to be helping them grow, those I'm serving. But I look around in the greater world, and man, where are the leaders? They aren't leaders. They're people looking for agendas.
Yeah.
They're not looking to serve everyone. They're looking to serve and get those who agree with them on their agenda. Rather than say what's good for everybody.
Yeah. Good leaders don't divide; they unite.
Exactly. That's very well said. Very, very well said.
So let's give some applications for you.
Yeah.
Okay, just one. All we got is one, and it's just going to come in the form of a question that we kind of already asked.
Yeah.
What is on the other side of yes? Ask yourself that question daily, because if leadership is hard, which it is, if leadership is worth it, which it is, what's on the other side of yes?
Yeah.
Of you saying, I'm going to pay the rent that's due every day to be a leader, I'm going to lead myself, and I'm going to lead others well. I'm going to put some of these principles into practice. What's on the other side of that?
Yeah, and if you're someone who's tempted to just throw in the towel now, I'm going to remind you of what we said before. We'll say it again. Leadership is a team sport. Yeah. Go and partner with someone. Find someone who is a good leader. That's your senior, not necessarily in role, but in experience. And
maybe take a rest.
Yeah, take a rest, get counsel, get advice.
Which we have an episode coming up pretty soon on that as well.
We do. We're going to talk about good leaders actually rest, and how they rest. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. But thanks so much for joining us today. We hope this helps. Leadership is hard, but it's worth it.
Yep.
Pay the rent that's due every day to be a good leader and succeed at what you do. We believe you can do it. We're in your corner. Yeah. Questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you. But thanks so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Longer episode for sure, but we really appreciate your time. And we're, like Jared said, we're in your corner. We want nothing but the best for you and your leadership journey. So thank you. Take care.
See you next time.
Bye.